Thanks everyone for joining us today. So let me the clicker is slow. So yeah, just a little bit about us here at A Sustainable X. We have set up the business during last year because we really believe businesses can be sustainable and profitable at the same time, and find a really good balance of that, and even amplify that. And we really hope businesses can multiply their profits and their social and environmental impacts. And we're here today to sort of guide you through how we think it can be done, and to support you to do it. Oh, clicker's working, but it's slow.
That's a proper go slow, isn't it?
Very slow. So just a brief introduction to myself. I'm Rhonda Allen. I'm born in Australia. You can probably tell from the accent. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, way in the background there. So I've really got a good eye on all things financial, but I come from a lot of manufacturing and supply chain experience. So sustainability is a really big topic in that arena, and worked in quite a few continents in my corporate career. So over to you, Nick.
Yeah, so Nick Riley, I'm originally from Northern Ireland. I'm not so well travelled as Rondi, but I've been predominantly in the SME environment within construction and utility sectors. Okay, so just to take you through, this is a slightly sales pitch, but it's more illustrating the approach we take with clients, and this has evolved from what the clients want. What we originally envisaged we would be doing is not what we're actually doing in practice now. So we kick off with a workshop to get to base camp. So that's really getting customers to understand what sustainability is, what their current impacts are, and what opportunities they have to amplify that profitably. Once we've established that, then some choose to go on the sustainable journey where they really start to measure things in anger. They know where their big impacts are, they know where their big opportunities are, and they're actually measuring things, setting targets, and progressing and demonstrating that progress. And the ultimate for us is when someone gets to Summit or is a Summit client, and basically their business model is sustainable. What they're doing is actually having a positive impact on the world. And for them, it's about trying to magnify that and giving them as big a market share as they can get. So, purpose of today, we want to try and give you an introduction so you understand the breadth of what sustainability is for businesses. Then recognize what some of your positive impacts might be right now. Identify some opportunities and give you some ideas about how you might get better. And have a clear why, a business case. Start to have in your mind what that business case for being more sustainable might be. So in terms of the structure, we'll cover what it is, why, the business case side of it, then where to start, how to start this journey, what you would do after you've started, and then some examples and good practice and case studies just to give you some more ideas. And then we'll wrap up with the inevitable minor sales pitch. So what is it? The broad classification of it is actually as a business enduring over a period of time. So actually being around, being successful. But we like the Harvard Business School sort of description of it, which is doing well from doing good. So you are making money at the same time as having a positive impact. And we strongly believe if it's costing you money, you're probably not going to stick with it. So it has to at least sustain your current profits or give you some growth or actually have a positive impact. So going on from the basic definition of sustainability being social, economic and environmental impacts, we've enhanced that, and Rhonda, you'll shortly go into a little bit more depth on it, but we've classified it into 8 areas, and the environmental impact is where people tend to start. So while everybody thinks about sustainability, they generally think about this, but it is just one piece of it. So if you're a construction business or a manufacturing business, you're likely to have a big direct environmental impact and carbon footprint. Whereas if you're manufacturing, that's all in your supply chain or in your distribution. So as a construction business, maybe you're able to measure things and change things and have a big impact quite quickly. If you've got that supply and distribution model, it's harder. But for a lot of people, that's all about the last mile of delivery or your manufacturing source. So the big aspects to consider within there is your energy usage, your energy source, your fuel usage. It could also be your biodiversity impact, your water usage, your pollution impact, if you're actually discharging anything to water courses. But in terms of where to start, carbon footprint. At some stage or other, if you're not already doing it, you're going to be asked for a carbon footprint. They talk about 3 levels of it, scopes 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 are effectively what you do in-house. At least measure that, have it in your board pack, get started. Employee well-being's really come to the fore a little bit more during COVID, but again, instinctively people think of health insurance and maybe some health initiatives around the food they supply in the building, but actually the biggest impact is the work you provide, the quality of work you provide, and the career progression you offer, because that's what enables people to live well and be healthy. So that's the bigger impact. The good work also links to mental well-being, and that's obviously become a bigger topic. And on that front, if you haven't already got one, definitely get a stress risk assessment carried out, because that is actually an HSE requirement and is likely to become more significant for people. Equality and diversity, there's lots of studies being done, and generally they show that businesses with more diverse leadership outperform their markets. And you're going to struggle to have diverse leadership in terms of ethnic origin or gender if you haven't got that within your employees. So the place to start is measure. You should know where you are, and you should know what your catchment area, the community you recruit from, what's that like? What is your customer base like? Are you representative of those 2 things? And if not, then start to think about how you might become more diverse to match those communities. But it is about starting and getting that measurement in place. Ethics and governance, very much driven from the investor market, the financial services side, but it's actually about doing the right thing and not having bad things done onto you. So in there, things like cybercrime are much more prominent these days. So are you cyber secure? Have you got fraud checks and measures in place? Things like fuel theft, expenses, fraud, sounds minor but can escalate. And there's the reputational damage that goes with these things. And then in the wider sense, bigger theft like plant theft and things like that. So within the supply chain, I touched on within the environmental impact, supply chain can be a big deal, and it merits a specific area, and Rhonda will give you a bit more.
Yeah, so just to talk a little bit about supply chain, it is considered the most significant impact, especially environmentally, environmental concerns around the supply chain. And this is because it's also got the biggest challenge. Logistics, transport, production all has a huge carbon footprint and can make it really like a lot of waste comes from that sector. But it is really the most challenging when you've got international supply chains, international productions, and really it's difficult for lack of transparency. And I think in COVID, we've seen that really significantly highlighted, and everyone's starting to understand just how intransparent our whole supply chain is. In this area, also expect a lot of regulations to start coming, because governments will be looking really to hone down here. I know the plastic tax is initiated for April 2022, which everyone should be starting to become aware of if you're producers. And a big recommendation here is just you need to start asking the questions within your supply chain. So it's asking whether you're onboarding and asking sustainability questions on the onboarding side, or even in the supplier evaluation things. What are your suppliers and those in your value chain doing? So that's both direct and indirect. So it might even be your energy provider, but or your bank even. So asking what they're doing is a really nice place to start and start unpicking that complexity. In terms of innovation and collaboration, this is really a great topic, because you can't be sustainable by yourself or in a vacuum. It really does take partners, it does take governments, it does take your employees. It really is the whole piece of collaboration. And a really nice story from one of our clients in terms of innovation and collaboration at both ends of the spectrum is they make bamboo nappies. And so they're innovative to get the best quality product that their users really, really appreciate and made sustainably. But they also look at the end and collaborating with local governments to collaborate how the waste stream is for those and hot composting topics and putting things together there. So it sort of is a really nice topic, and it's kind of where everyone's going, and we'll bring some good examples there from the bigger companies towards the end. In terms of value for customers, we'll talk a bit about this in the benefits sector, but businesses won't survive and be sustainable in themselves if they're not providing value to their customers. And we have a huge portion statistically of millennials who really care about this topic, and that's everyone under 40, to steal Nick's stat that will come later. So everybody under 40 really cares about the sustainability topic, and they're our customers and our employees, and they're our spenders. So it's really important that we're staying on top of those trends. And in terms of community contribution, this is all the ins and outs that your business and everything you touch in your business. So, for example, how you are recruiting from your local community, apprenticeship schemes, work experience, Kickstart, flexible working for your community. Do you reflect your community? But also the give backs, the community, the collaborations you might have with schools, colleges, universities, or charity work that your company brings. And why we really are so excited about this topic is sustainability gives a framework for all of these topics under one roof. And a number of our clients that we've been to and held our initial workshops, they've really been excited because some of the employees at the workshops say, well, we always seem to be starting something new. And this is a really nice way to frame all the different initiatives that a company can work on. So that's our business model, but it didn't come from nowhere. So we actually have derived it from the UN Sustainability Development Goals, and that if you haven't heard of them, they're 17 goals that cover all the sustainability topics, and it was defined by the UN in 2015 and adopted by 193 member states. So it's a government program and a government initiative with targets set at 2030 that will really ambitious goals for all the countries to sort of achieve. And because COVID slowed that down, and because we're not as far along as we should be as a nation, we're expecting to see some regulations and more initiatives come down and drive towards these targets. But our program and our approach and what we're trying to share with you as much as we can today in our short session is just how you can start getting ahead of that curve and adopting some of these best practices to sort of, to work towards the goals as well. We have questions and answers. If you want to ask any questions and answers, Nick and I are happy to answer them when it's if we get a chance. So over to you, Nick.
Okay, so moving on to the business case. Why should you be more sustainable? What's in it for you? So we did some research in our wisdom. So we went out to 100 companies with over 20 employees in the UK. And what came back very strongly is people are being asked and pushed in this direction by customers, with 83% being asked to demonstrate their sustainability or what they're doing about it by customers. And then staff sort of unforced bringing sustainability initiatives to the table and asking their business, can we do this? I notice we're doing this. It feels wrong. Why can't we? So those are two big drivers, and they come through in the business case very strongly. And that's led 73% of those businesses wanting to be more sustainable. But interestingly, it's a priority for 25%. So within their market, they're potentially looking to differentiate themselves and get a competitive advantage by being more sustainable. So further from the research, there's 95% of those businesses see the need to be more sustainable without us prompting or pushing in any way. When you get into the why, well, why is that? For 63%, reputation. So they want to be seen to be sustainable, and whether you approve of that motivation or not, it is a big driver. And interesting, we didn't start off with a certification scheme or offer, and this has pushed us on our initial workshop, have moved us towards giving certification because people want a tool to be able to demonstrate that they are on this path. We thought cost savings would be the biggest thing. It is clearly significant and seen as a big opportunity. But engagement of both staff and customers is a big thing, and it is, and from our customer experience, they find it a really good and easy, almost righteous tool to be talking to customers and staff about. People talk about the benefits of staff engagement. Well, how do you do that? Well, this framework makes that really easy, actually. And then there is a significant chunk of people who are just saying, well, the legislation's making us. Customers are making us, rules are making us, so we kind of have to, so we may as well get properly on board.
Right.
So we mentioned the business case. We have a tool which if you drop us an email, or you can go online and get it from our website, which is a business case builder and gives you some formulas and ideas to use it. And it picks on 4 big areas, and customer retention and acquisition is one of them. If this big trend towards people wanting to get more information or get more business from sustainable companies, then, sorry, just a message popped up there, then that's going to take business away from you if you are not sustainable. So what sort of savings could you make from that? Well, it depends on your cost of customer acquisition, but looking at a reasonable sized business, you're into significant thousands of pounds in terms of the benefits you can get from that, with fairly conservative thinking on what your customer churn is and what new business you might attract organically from putting this message out there. On the employee side of things, millennials, this is where Rondi nicked my stat, they absolutely are engaged with this agenda, and there's lots of research being done by McKinsey and Gallup and people like that, which actually demonstrates, given the choice of employer, they'll go for the one that is more sustainable. They are more purpose driven, and under 40, that's a big chunk of the workforce these days. Now, the numbers involved with this one from a benefit perspective are much more significant. So you're looking at the cost of replacement, and generally that's again quite a conservative number we've used, with 100 employees, 30 grand, and organically attracting people. So in fact, the workshop we did just before Christmas, they had a recruitment spend of 250 grand, and they actually believe by taking this message forward, an agenda forward in a genuine way, they'll make a big noise in their sector because no one else is doing it, and that will help them attract people. And they're looking to half that number, so 125 grand. So these are big deals. On the cost saving side, again, some of our clients have got big fleets of vans, and they've looked at it, and the headline figures, not that much, not to be sniffed at, but not that big. But actually, when they get into it and start to look at changes in the depreciation of the vehicle, maybe the servicing times, when they talk to their insurers about what they're doing, they get premium reductions. So that starts to amplify what those savings are. But actually, it drives productivity. And one of the big things for productivity is this staff engagement piece, and again, lots of research done, and Gallup reckon they can get a 21% increase in productivity from the top 10% of people in their sector with respect to staff engagement. Well, 21% productivity gain, big number, big number. So that's where the real prize is. So if you just look at each one of those in terms of the investment for your business and starting a sustainable journey, the benefits that are there to be had from it can be really significant. So again, if you want, just drop us a note and we'll send you across the business case builder, or you can get it via the website. Rondi.
So where and how to start, and this is the sort of approach we follow, and it's a whistle-stop tour in our 45 minutes that we have with you. So we got a 6-step adoption process. Build awareness, identify the impact, which is really important, define priorities and goals, allocate the right resources, and we've got some tips on that as well, integrate it into your core business, and communicate. So I'll go through these quite quickly and try and bring it to life a little bit with a few examples. So in terms of build awareness, we're starting today to come and learn a lot of, there's a lot of information out there if you start to investigate sustainability development goals. The regulations are coming thick and fast as well. There's a new waste regulation coming too. And just don't forget, sustainability is a holistic approach. But it really interestingly, as soon as you start putting your antennas up on these topics, you will find that they're everywhere, and it is the agenda to be pushing in a business. And an interesting one, we had Nick and I had some professional development recently on accessibility, which is a really important topic in sustainability and equality and good education. And everywhere I go now, I see accessibility things, and it's 1 in 7 adults in the UK have a disability, and 70% of those are hidden. So it's a huge market of customers, but also employees that we're perhaps not even tapping into that or making our product and our services aware. And we did try and put subtitles on this today, but we couldn't quite work out the technology. So if anybody is hard of hearing or would like subtitles, we'll redo a version where we put subtitles. But it's just really interesting topics, and just start to build your awareness and understanding of all the topics that fall under this framework. If you don't know where to get started or just want a bit of a guide to start, we've got another free tool that we're really happy to send out. It's a get started guide. So don't hesitate. We'll send them out in a bundle if you're interested. So the next thing would be the impacts, and this is holistic again. And my analogy is there's no point in changing your well, there's no point. There is a point, but it won't give as big an impact if you change your toilet paper in your office to unbleached and you run a fleet of diesel vans. So really, it's really about breaking down exactly where you think you can make the big impacts. And it's important just to go through all the places that and this is what we do in our compass. We identify where you're strong and to either amplify that even more, but also align to your business goals and where you want to be, because it might be a sector that you, maybe retention of staff or growing your market share is a key business driver for you. So you need to amplify the efforts on that. And once again, we've got another tool just to sort of fast track you there and sort of give you a bit of a trigger and some thinking around the impacts and where to improve and when to reduce. So another little free guide to support your business. So in terms of defining priorities and goals, it's really what's important to you. Every business is different, and every business we go out and see has when they start talking, they really know where they want to be, and they can start, that light bulbs start to go off, and how they can use this agenda and these topics and really drive things. And just a thing to bear in mind is cost savings. We initially thought, as Nick said, this was going to be a really drive on cost savings, but that's got a limited there is a bottom where you can't save any more money. I think we've probably all been in companies or roles that there's no more money to save. But the upside is on all of the other topics, there's such an upside into growth. So just keep an eye on those things. In terms of measuring your goals and setting your goals and your targets, there's not really any industry standards. Carbon footprint is a great one to start measuring. And if you're really serious about this, it's something you need to measure. And our clients don't always to start with, but just start. You need a stake in the ground and know where to go from. And a really good place to start would be look at what your industry does and what they're talking about and what's important to them, because there'll be some brains behind that. So start thinking about your industry sector as well. Another quick guide there, a bit boring. I think this is the last one, but there's a self-assessment guide that's a tick box, yes and no. And it might be even be interesting to use this with your staff as part of an understanding of what they know about your business in terms of sustainability. So as I said, define your strategies and how you're going to allocate the resources. And something that's been really evident with our clients is that they bring in terms of the resources, they bring people, they engage with people who are already engaged, and they become the megaphones in the business. And they're really, it's usually a junior board or some young up and coming talent, and they give these this project. And they've been really utilising their enthusiasm on the topic, and they develop the measures. And it is a matter of sometimes just starting to measure fuel use and put it on a graph for the board pack, or even publicise it. So it's just about keeping it really simple. Don't get overwhelmed by it, and starting somewhere. But we've got a lot of ideas if you want to get in touch after, and we can chat with you. So in terms of integrating it into the business, we really like the idea of using this framework as an umbrella, but we don't advocate greenwashing or even rainbow washing, they sometimes call it, which is just doing it to tick a box. So it's must be part of what you do. You got to walk the talk. Don't overcomplicate it, and it's an, you know, just you don't need to put it into any ISO systems or integrate it into what you do normally. Don't create a whole new management suite to manage the process. And the last point there is communicate with your stakeholders. As we said before, if you've got a cost saving to make, sometimes if you've got management that is struggling to buy in, that's a really nice way to start getting some good positive inertia, that you see some cost savings, and then the agenda will start to roll itself. Communication is really important, and we see this a lot, but it needs to be internal communication as well. We recently had a client, and they said to us, well, how are we going to we've just changed our waste model to use recycling bins and take away bins at people's desks, and that really didn't go down very well. So they were worried about how to keep this communication up, but they didn't really have a framework. They just took them away and didn't do anything. And I think by communicating this in a holistic way, you really drive some motivation and tap into those enthusiastic people already, the doors that are already partially open. Don't forget to mention sustainability maybe in your recruitment. If this is a key driver for your business, consider your potential employees and recruiting people that are already aligned with the values that you have. There's a lot of examples of communication to the external customers, but consumers are looking for this and buying products that have sustainability associated with them.
And just sorry to interrupt, Ronnie, but linking that to the business case side of things again, it's proven that the millennials and the Generation Z and beyond, if you are sustainable, it is more attractive to them. And it's also now proven for customers, if you are sustainable, it is more attractive to them. So it might just be the thing that seals that better employee or seals that new client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and stakeholders as well. Here's the co-op sending out and supporting UK communities. So they probably put that on their window, and everybody feels like the co-op's, you know, part of their community, and it's you know, driving and continuing their customer loyalty program. So that is coming. Yeah, and then we would just be a really strong proponent of continuing the cycle of improvement, because we don't believe sustainability topics will ever be finished. It's just continuing, going through the cycle again and again, looking for priorities and opportunities the whole way. And I think it'll be a topic on our business agendas and our home agendas and everything we do for quite a while yet. So what next?
Okay, this is back to me. So I just use these are the tools we use and have evolved. And again, it's come from customers. So it's developed over time based on what people want and what they find useful. So it does need to start with a business case. If there isn't a compelling why for doing this and people aren't bought into it, then it's going to flounder. And that needs to be signed off by the board. You've got to have that majority of the board behind it and supporting it, or again, is going to struggle. I'm waiting for the clicks to come here.
Yeah, they're coming.
So part of our methodology, we do the workshop and we go through the 17 sustainable development goals from a business perspective. They're obviously written for governments. We come at it from the business angle, and we identify where the wins are already, what you're doing well, and what the opportunities are. And then it's a case of, well, priorities, and we use a compass. So above the lines are the things the business is going to focus on for the next year or so. And we highlight what they're doing now and want to grow and what the opportunities are. And that's what you need to do. You need to systematically go through this, and then you create an action plan. And again, as Rondi said, we don't propose or suggest that you build a whole new management system for this. It's business objectives with milestones, with responsibilities, with target dates, and you progress it. And for us, the certification comes when people evidence that they have an action plan and they are actually genuinely progressing it.
So in terms of case studies, some examples, and just to try and bring this to life, you may have seen some of these already in the press, but I love watching IKEA. They're always doing something, whether it's doing something with their burgers and their infamous meatballs, but they're looking at buying back their used furniture, which is really amazing. And you think about the supply chain that would be involved to do that. It blows my mind.
And just linked to that, Ronnie, so that one of our clients again is in the publishing sector, and they're looking at what happens with their products and their books when they're finished with, and trying to put on the packaging what people should do with them, and they're using the framework to tie this together. So, okay, can this go to a local charity, an educational support charity, which supports their overall ethos as a business? So as you start to look at some of these bigger examples, you can relate it to what you're doing as a business and find opportunities.
So Adidas is another great example, and obviously they're big enough to have full transparency in their supply chain, but then they've released this new recycled sneaker, and it comes from some of the plastic out of the sea, like sea waste, and they're so good at what they're doing is that they have now made sure that they're not using child labor to collect. Traditionally, that's what they use to collect the sea waste on the beaches. So it's they have the power to be this transparent, but it's not. The nice news is people are starting to do it, so the questions can start being asked by everybody else now, because it's not an unusual question anymore. And Burger King, if Burger King is starting, they've got 3 cities, I think, testing their reusable packaging. This is coming. It's got a, back to the old school where they've got a deposit system where you use it and get your deposit back. So it's watching out what everybody else is doing in the market and just seeing if that can adapt or pivot, or you can apply that to you. It's really interesting. But
yeah, it's like back to the milk bottles, if people are old enough to remember.
The cans or bottles. But in terms of some of our real client examples, just to really bring it to life, we have a customer who's a manufacturer and they import from China, and they're concerned about that, but they really have a sustainable ethics and value model in their business. And so when we were talking to them, they were sharing that they do carbon offset, and they carbon offset by supporting a village in Uganda. Now, what's really, really great about that is the sustainable development goals that then ticks some boxes for, or really covers off, includes no poverty, because they're creating jobs in Uganda, life on land, because they're growing bamboo and it's so good for soil erosion, and they're really supporting that, and sustainable communities. That comes a whole business model in itself. So the business in the UK importing from the China, but it's doing good in Uganda. It's just, there's just no downsides there.
And they're really switched on as a business. The way they've calculated their carbon footprint, they've been able to relate that to a per product carbon footprint. So every month, units sold equals carbon offset. And it's been rigorously done and properly assessed. So they genuinely are carbon neutral in the scheme of things.
So yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. There's a publisher that we talked about earlier, and they have they've got this realization, opportunity in that their content is king, and they work in a retail sector with huge distribution, so they can really hone their content to reflect, perhaps be more accessible to people. They can support messaging around sustainability, but be even more basic than that, they can help people read. They can get their books into sectors that perhaps maybe not Waterstones, but bigger distribution models than that. So it's really trying to elevate people out of poverty in the UK, just by having an opportunity to read these books. They're looking at their products and the glitter that's in products, often in children's books, and they're eliminating that and changing that so that they're supporting life below water. And back to quality education, just their content and making sure they're accessible, reflecting diversity, disability, and really some really good topics there. And another nice one as well, and this is one that our leisure company that we work with doesn't shout about, just does it because they're just a good company. And they offer training services for the local fire brigades, so that at night time they can turn off all the lights, and the firemen can train in climbing through difficult environments and situations. It's a pretty indestructible place they have, and they provide this service to all the local services. Go in there and open it up, put teas and coffees on, and without that training, there's nowhere else they can do this. It's supporting everyone. So it's really good for sustainable cities. It's really giving back. They don't shout about it, and they should. They're a local business with local customers. Their whole business model is good health. It's in the leisure sector, so really good for well-being for children, parents, families. And another thing they really are purpose driven is they want to recruit school leavers and people that need part-time work, because it suits them, but it's good for their business, but it's also good for the employees. And they give them real skills that are transferable for the future. They often go off to university and go off and do other things and take those skills with them. So it's really so much on the agenda that companies are already doing, but could even amplify more and drive their businesses to even, greater heights.
And they're a great example of people that when we spoke to them, they were nervous that they were going to get no credits whatsoever, and they were doing so much. And that's the thing with this agenda. Everybody is doing something, even if it's just on the economic side of things. You are doing positive things. And Amphil's another good example of it, where they're a really fast moving business that through the fire and security sector hasn't really suffered with COVID, and they're thriving. So their challenge is actually the recruitment and retention of people, but they're really strong on their health and well-being offering. So it's actually capitalizing on that. So they did a workshop with us. And actually, interestingly, one of their key customers rung them up the day before and said, listen, we're taking sustainability much more seriously. What are you doing about it? And well, as it happens, we've got a workshop tomorrow. And shortly after that, they had their report and their action plan. And very quickly, in a couple of months, they've actually completed their action plan. They've got certification. And that's put them in a real strong position with that key customer, which is a big national player. They had one site with them, and now have the potential to have many more sites with them. So they're really on the front foot there. But they've also put in place a lot of environmental measures, particularly around their fleet. So they've tried electric vehicles. They've got a strategy for that. Their company car policies changed. They've got hybrids in there. They've just really switched on. And in everything they're doing now, they're tweaking policies and processes, which are all making just marginal gains, but this is all adding up, and they really are in a strong place within their industry in terms of leading on sustainability and making a big noise about it. So back to almost a wrap-up bit on a minor sales pitch. It's the process we adopt and the journey that comes across is what we recommend you do. If you want to get started with this, you want to move it, whether you do it with us, you do it yourselves, you do it with someone else, you need to get that assessment of where you are, benchmark your current performance, and then start to measure things in anger and be setting targets for improvement, identifying opportunities, and really engaging the people in the business who are engaged with it, and they will drive it forward. We've been really delighted by the level of engagement with people within the workshops, and the founders and managing directors of some of these businesses have been quite surprised and almost shocked by the level of enthusiasm that's coming from the senior teams for this agenda. And once you've started on it, it becomes its own driver, and hopefully some of you will get to the summit stage where you're actually making a real sort of positive difference to your market and the wider environment.
So, as Nick said, we've got to go on our website. We've got lots of great testimonials, and for us, it is just amazing when you sit in the room and listen to some of our clients and the light bulbs go off. And we really hope that there might be some creative thoughts in your mind after the short webinar today. But yeah, it's a really, really exciting topic, and it's so comprehensive and holistic. And it's really one to be on the journey with, I think. And I say it every single day. I say it 10 times a day. There is no downside to being more sustainable. So please, so that's a thank you from us. Our numbers are there, our emails are there. Please look at our website. We do have about 5 minutes left. We finished slightly early. So if anyone has any questions or answers, we'd be really happy to take them.
Yeah, and just if those tools are there, so if you drop us an email, drop us a note, happy to ping them across, or if you just want to chat about anything that we've raised today, again, just give us a shout, and thank you very much for attending. We're looking to see if any Q&As pop up, but in their absence, I think we'll call it there. So thank everybody very much for joining us, and hopefully speak to some of you soon.
All the best.